Okay, how are we going there, guys? Can you hear me loud and clear? We should be coming through now, the video. Just saw your comment there, Paul. Nothing wrong with Sydney. Next to Sydney boy, I can't say too much. It's bigger than me, bigger and uglier, and he's going to love that. All right, so can everyone hear me now? I think I'm just checking on my phone. I've just off my laptop, so it's going to be a bit of a short and sharp and sweet stream today. It won't be the normal hour session, only because I'm just anticipating it could be a few little issues. Everything seems to be running now. So if you just have a bit of buffering, it's just dropping it, just let me know. It looks okay for now. All right. I know the US was down last night, so well, not a big night. I know that what we had Trump was back on Twitter again. So if it's not one thing, it's another with him, and he just seems to he's loving the attention. It looks like they just get over the trade tariffs over in with China anyway. They sort of start to look like it's sorting that out. The market has a bit of a rally. Then he comes and talks about missiling, was it Syria with Russia? So there's a bit of argy-bargy with the two countries now. So it looks like that's what I think in the European session it knocked that down a bit there, thanks to his comments or his Twitter comments. So it's got the US off in the back foot, and I think they just stayed down. I think it was down about 200 and so points on the Dow overnight. Probably considering the market conditions too, it was a bit of probably profit taken from the previous session. I don't think anyone's really willing to hold longer term positions at the moment. It's more maybe overnight positions, a couple of days if it's looking okay, but then selling any sort of bad news that comes out or anything like that you know, especially when Trump's on Twitter banging on about different things. So how are we all faring today? We're only down a few points, down 14 at the moment. I didn't send the morning alert out if anyone did notice. Just on the plane, really, just actually in the car about that time, so didn't have the opportunity. But yeah, I'll go through some of the SPY levels at the moment, see how that's holding up, which just gives you a bit of an intraday view of the strength or the weakness in the market. We'll have a look at that, have a look at the ASX, obviously XJO. I want to go through just a chart I think it's worthwhile looking at, is on silver. Might have a look at silver, and we've got what was I talking about? I think it was the Kiwi US. I've got a chart I sent out which is worth just having a look at, pure from a technical point of view, and I'll just explain the reasoning behind that. So, John, how are you, mate? Paul, Ryan, we should have got organised, Paul, and catch up for a drink. I know you're probably busy with the kids, aren't you, mate? Anyway, let's get stuck into it. Let's have a look at. I haven't got the usual banter from the start. Welcome to anyone that's new, by the way. Let's take a look at the market. So we've got what's this? The XJO. Look at the Dow first. Not a big night. Let me just get this. So not a big night. We've still got this key level around. It's around 23,500, which it is holding some lower highs at the moment. But you can see the move from the highs to the lows. Just what we're on the weekly. It's getting to that stretch stage, going from overbought to oversold. So you just got to sort of question how much more strength on that move down. Are we out of the woods yet? Or are we just going to wash out those lows, or we're going to extend? We've spoken about this quite a few times now. The main thing I'll be watching for, I'll draw it up on the Dow at least, and probably you're looking at the same on the S&P, is that it's these levels here. Obviously, you've got your support zone through there, about 23.5 down to 23 maybe, and you've got this initial leg down. We bounced up, and then we're straight back into that support. It's not over just yet. We've got a sort of a minor resistance zone potentially holding the market down at the moment at around 24,500. But this could easily extend. You've got from highs to lows here. Take that from highs to lows. It could take us somewhere around 22 to 25, 2250. Sorry, 500. So that's a good, that's another 1,000 points. Sorry, potentially another 1,000 point drop from, or even more. What are we now? 24. Another 1,500 points from where we are at the moment on the Dow. If that's what's going to play out, it's just the stochastics. You know how I like to look at that, the strength of the move down from overbought to oversold. It's taken a fair bit of energy to get down here. We traded down to these support zones, popped back up, built that lower high just in here, and then another fair bit of energy to get down from sort of that 50% down to oversold at the moment, but we can only get down so far, and we're starting to see that reaction off 23,500. So we just have to see if that can hold up, and it's mainly down to the daily zone, the daily charts that can give us some sort of heads up. Let me just make that a bit clearer. And the daily, so that's your zone through, they say 23.5 down to 23.250 maybe. And this would be your key level just above 24,500. And if it starts popping up through there, then we'll be looking towards that 25,750. But I think, again, I would more expect a bit of a wash out of this support zone, potentially down to 23, as this is holding another lower high, and especially anytime there's any news out where we're taking it bad. Like I said, with Trump, that could be the next thing the market's going to be focused on. Then it could be back to argy-bargy about tariffs. So there's still a bit of negative sentiment around. Obviously, the backstop is the global economy. It's still going well. I mean, the US is still ticking along nicely, and we've still got the US reporting season to come out, which is going to be better than expected, probably. I can't remember the figures, but obviously with the tax reform that's gone through the US, there's going to be some better figures, and it's going to support the market. So it could be a good opportunity if we hold up here once the company reporting starts coming out. And if they start hitting targets or increasing the outlooks, then you're going to get maybe some support into stocks. It could be a bit of a good zone to be buying, and they may see it as a good zone to buy. Otherwise, we just have to see how it goes. But I'd expect that's going to be the opposite to the negative sentiment. But either way, I still think it's got a lot of work to do before the market's going to turn. And realistically, if you look at it from the bigger picture, it's not that much of a, you can see it's gone vertical. It's not that much of a retracement from the monthly. On the weeklies, we're back to the MAs. The dailies are crossed down. So there's an argument for both sides where we could head down lower or we could hold up just here. But if we do hold up here, I'd be struggling to see it going back up to the highs and building new highs and just continuing on. I think we've got to do a lot of work around where we are. Maybe not break, but just do a lot of work around oscillating above and below that 24,000 mark. So that just means choppy markets going forward, I'd say, in the US and our markets as well. We're pretty much reacting to whatever the US does at the moment. So let's take a look at FTSE. Not much to do. That's actually bounced okay, to be honest, on the weekly. So that's doing okay up there. That it's getting to that overextended on the upside, and you come into that resistance zone around 73. So we could back off from there. But whether we back off and build that higher low, which we want to see, through 7,000 to 71, somewhere in there. If we have a decent little correction, start building that high low, you'd probably be looking, and look at the weekly too, going from overbought up here to oversold to break down below that 7,000. Oversold down there, but we're starting to push back up. So you just got to look at it. If we do react off 73, we pull back, I'll be looking for that high low to see if we can get some more positivity back into that market. And that's not looking so bad. They haven't gone on the strong. I mean, the US has been the strong market. And probably the DAX has done okay as well. So probably the US needs a bit more heat to come out of it. I don't know just yet. I'll just have to sit and assess it day by day or week by week. The FTSE's not looking too bad. But the DAX, European, what are they doing on the weekly? That's not as bad either. It's been a bit more controlled on the way up. Whereas you can see the US started really accelerating towards the end of that rally, and so that's why I'm probably expecting a bit more time for them just to reset themselves. But the DAX just here, you can see that's that key zone around 12,000. See if we can hold up around there. Nothing just yet. Nothing to say we've broken through a key lower high. We're right up there now. The same with the FTSE. We're there, but we haven't gone through it. Until we go through it, nothing's changed. That pressure, we could get some more selling come back in, pressure the market down. We take out the lows, and down we go again. So onto the XJO. That's not what I want to do. Take one step back. The XJO, it's the weekly chart we're just focused on at the moment. And it's that support zone coming through the lows. We'll just see if that's still holding up to what we want to see. And it pretty much is, I'd say. You can see the weekly is the one. Yeah, it's still got some room to move. We can be choppy around here. It could just look like it's heading south. Really clean up a few traders that's trying to buy it. Buying the dips, clean them back out, but still hold that weekly trend. So the daily could be looking negative, but it's I'd say we're coming into that zone on the weekly chart where you'd expect some sort of reaction, even if it's just a reaction back up to build a major lower high, and then okay, we all capitulate, and it's a new not a GFC, I'd say, but that where we're going to break that weekly trend up. But until we break out of that weekly trend up, it's really just sitting on your hands and picking those prime setups for now. But we're still holding it. Still got that support zone around 56.50. It's holding up above there. It's potentially, it can chop around, it can go sideways from here. It can just clean a lot of people out, and it's going to get frustrating. I'd say, we pop up, everyone thinks we're going to rally, then we turn around and head back down again, like we have the last couple of days. And it's a bit of a theme. Have a couple of up days, a couple of down days, finish the week. From start to finish, it could be nothing during the week, a flat week, but you've had a big ranging week, and it's just chopping people around. So just obviously be wary of what you're holding if you're going to get into something new, and if you're not. If you've got a bit of a portfolio, just know exactly what you're going to do if you're forced to get out. Let's just I'll go back to that daily. I just want to see what the daily's looking like. And daily, it looks like the pressure's still on, but the good thing with our market, we've had that move down, say from the highs, 61.50, say, down to 58. We've reacted up somewhere just below 6,100, and we've reacted down, taken out that 58, down to say 57.25, these lows just in here. And we've just popped back up. The pressure's still down on the daily, but again, we're coming to that weekly zone. We could just take out, we could retest 57.25. Then you'd want to be looking for, for signs that we're starting to hold lows, working off some higher lows potentially, and you want to see some sort of lower highs broken, is that a word? Breaking or broke. I'm pretty sure we're going through there, Noel, if you can hear me. Sorry guys, just 1 second. I'm just going to write into the message. To refresh. All right. So does everyone else see me okay? I just want to make sure everyone's clear. The 2% I'm getting on my cash at present is looking very attractive. I do. Good work, Paul. Yeah, Paul, I think you're doing well. Your old theory of just holding cash on the sidelines for now, longer term, you could be getting into that. It's just trying to pick when the market's going to head higher, isn't it? Again, I don't think, honestly, I think we've got a lot of work to do before we get anywhere. It shut my computer down completely earlier. I'm blaming Braden. Oh, thanks, Helen. We should have had a trade meetup in Sydney. I know there's a few of you from Sydney, isn't there? Anyway, I hope you can all hear me. Otherwise, I'm just talking to myself and probably Kurt next to me. I don't think he's listening anyway. All right, let's get on to the Nikkei. It's a bit like the DAX and the FTSE. It's had a good little retracement off that washout low, that washout of 2100 on the. So it's not looking too bad. This is on the Nikkei. And when you get these sort of washouts and it comes all the way back to the recent lower high, it's not a bad sign. It's not a bad sign that you can potentially, maybe you just retest there, you push down. It's not a bad sign that potentially a lower high is going to form. And whether you get a complex correction, and what I mean by complex, say this, for example, on the Nikkei, for example, the fact that we've headed south, we've popped up, we've taken that, retested that low, we've held a lower high, we've pushed down, and that's your key lower high around 22. The fact that we've retraced all the way back up there, it's not massive signs of a really weak market. So we could find that we come back down, we could come down to 21, hold up off 21, and then you want to start working off a higher low. And potentially if we can get, I should draw that up again. I'll draw that back up again. That's our resistance zone around 22. We've got 21. We've just worked into 21. We've reacted off that. We've pushed it out, washed it out, and we're about here now. What I would like to see a washout and then a pullback and then a bit of contraction as the market's trying to make up its mind. But then I want to see that evidence of buys starting to step in at higher levels. on the Nikkei at least. And if you get that washout to the high, so especially of this move down, so this is your overall move down you're focused on, and we're focused on whether we're going to get contraction of that, as in we're going to get some sort of complex correction, which would mean a higher low forms, a pop up through 22, potentially back up to 23, and then see how we react. And it could be a major lower high from there, or we just work our way all the way back up to that 24 zone. But that's, it's starting to show, it's very early signs, and there's a lot to work out before that could happen. But that's something to look at from a technical point of view anyway. And you can apply that to that sort of price action or price structure to most markets. All right, where are we standing at the moment? I've probably been, what's the time? Nearly one. Put in some codes, guys. Yes, the beer is cold here as well. That's good. Actually, my wife told me when I got off the plane. She said it's pouring down in Melbourne, so I've got to keep bagging her a bit. It's beautiful up here. Beautiful weather. I'm on the 13th floor, looking out a window. It's better than looking at a car park or looking at my bedroom wall. All right. Put in some codes, guys, if there's something you want to look at. Otherwise, I might just quickly look at the SPY. The SPY, I'm just looking at the 30-minute chart on the SPY. Now, we've worked our way down. It's a bit of a heads up of what's happening overall in the ASX. The SPY's, you're going to get those reactions during the US session, and it's going to respect those levels during the US session too, if it's weak or if it's strong, respect support or respect resistance. But yeah, at the moment, we've come right up, and I think I mentioned that in a couple of mornings ago. This is a key level around that 58.40. We pressed up into that zone. We've had a bit of a minor pullback, and then we've had, you can see just in here, we've retested off that, and then we've got some weakness. But the key anchor to that level up is 57.66. So until that's broken, this trend from major support around 56.84, it's still heading higher. So the market is still heading higher until we break that. It's not looking good, but don't forget the market, has it's pressed up quite strong. This is just on the SPY, by the way. We're not trying to read in what the ASX is going to do, but just as a bit of a heads up of what we could be doing on the ASX, on the 200, on the index. We've had a good press up from that 58.60, say 65, into that resistance zone at 58.40. Had a bit of a pullback, tried to go again, and if you can't break there, then you've got to have a deeper correction, pretty much. And that deeper correction is to wash out buyers that bought it up off that zone, potentially bought it in here, maybe squeeze them out, put them back on the sidelines, and rebuild from there. So we could be looking to hold a minor level in here, just clean that out today and starting to lift. And if we start, I'll just see if I can get, I want to get continuous. If we start pushing up from here and then holding that zone and starting to build, then we could build, and it could be a nice zone to build off. And that would lead me to believe we've had that deep correction. We're going to have another go at that 58.40 and then potentially break it. But I'm not a bear until this anchor level is broken. Once that anchor level is broken, then on the downside, you'll be looking down towards that 56.80 again, about 100 points away from where we are at the moment. But until then, this is not looking too bad. That's that typical washout. You have that push up, a pullback. We can't go on the second. We couldn't break that level on the first try. Had a bit of a pullback. We didn't have enough strength on the second go, so we've had to have that deeper correction. And if we start to hold up around where we are at the moment and start to build, potentially it could rally tonight in the US. We could rally into the close today. We're only down about 18 points at the moment, I think. And then that could be just enough of a pullback or correction to drive up and through that 58.40 zone. And then it's not looking too bad from there. And then you'd be targeting potentially longer term up towards 59, 6,000 even, towards that 6,000 mark. But we'll see. The other thing I just want to touch on, we probably don't have to. How many codes we got? All right, we'll skip this. I was just going to touch on the Kiwi US as a bit of a currency thing. I think, actually, no, I'll just explain what I'm looking at here. It's important to know, from a technical perspective, I just noticed this the other day. So you've had a push down from the highs, say, well, that's not quite working, is it? So that's your move down, okay? Then we've reacted off, it's pretty much probably, I don't know what chart we'd be looking at, the daily, maybe the weekly, that's a good little correction. Then we reacted off this 62.70 or 62.60, had a good reaction off. We had another pullback, and this is your leg up. We had a pullback. We tried to go here, we couldn't. We tried to break through these highs. So you've got, and just going from left to right, you can start building up your levels from what you want to look at. And you can see the market's pretty much gone up off that 62.50 all the way up before we had a decent correction, and that's correcting of this leg down. So any bears may have been waiting for that correction, starting to sell it in here, starting to build up essentially a short position. All right, they build up a short position, then buyers started stepping in early. So you're getting that that fight that's starting to happen between the bulls and the bears. The buyers and the sellers. The sellers still think, maybe from here, longer term sellers, or sellers that want to take part of potentially another leg down. They're starting to sell. Okay, this correction of this leg down is around, say, 40 to 50%. That's enough. We'll go and sell it. I'm a Fibonacci trader. Start to sell it up at that level. Okay, it's pushed down. They're starting to, okay, we're looking good from there. And then buyers are stepping in rather than waiting to get down to 62.60 again, right down to support. They're starting to hold it up here. It's reacted off that zone, pushed down. The bears are starting to have another crack at it, and it's getting bought up off this zone. So that's at 68.50. That's your second time. We've traded right back up to that resistance, washed it out, come back down and washed out that support zone. So you can see we're stuck between those resistance and that support, those two different zones of this major leg down. So if you just drill down into it, it's really, you're starting to get that fight between the bulls and the bears. And what we're looking for from here, or what I've been looking at, and it's this last sort of correction, we're starting to get this move up and this pullback. We're building a high low here. We're getting the same sort of repetitive action of this move up and started to hold a high low in around 71, 74. So just remember, there's going to be a lot of sellers that have been built up here, maybe selling, some more selling in here, selling off the lower high, pressing down, expecting it to go all the way down. Sooner or later, they're going to have to reassess the position and potentially have to close out, which would be a whole lot of buying that's coming back into the market. So that's what we're looking for, as a bit of a squeeze. And we do know that from the way we look at it, we know it's probably about 70 to 80% of short positions for retail traders anyway. So if you're looking at that, the bulk of people are loaded short, and there's a potential setup building off another higher low above that 68.50, a higher low around 71.80, say, that is starting to hold, potentially starting to hold, and starting to build, and that just for a big squeeze, for a massive squeeze. And I would expect that squeeze, if that's going to be the play, to squeeze straight up through resistance and really extend. So if you're looking for a target, potentially you've got from low to high here. If we can draw that up, low to high. What am I looking for? What am I looking for? Segment, low to high, and if I can move that, that's not what I want. I want that. We move that. We drill down a bit, and that could take us up. If it's going to extend, if we're going to put the squeeze on, if there's enough short sellers to be squeezed out, we hold up at this zone, we could end up, before you know it, back up at 78.27 or 78.30, say. So there's a good little trade in that. Just if you just bought it here and potentially on that basis and put your stop below that 71.30, say 71.30 zone, you've got a 2 or 2.5, maybe 3 to 1 trade on that. That's if our analysis plays out. Now, I wouldn't attack it that way. I'd obviously looking that we're extended on the daily chart here. So I would expect potentially a bit of a pullback somewhere, suck in a few more short traders, really get them in and build that higher low. And if we start building a higher low, the daily goes from overbought, potentially, it even doesn't have to go to oversold, but it can come back to that 50% level. And you can see what it can happen. It can go to overbought and just stay there anyway. So if we do get that pullback, probably look into the lower time frames. We get a higher low up here, then it could be something to enter into. And that way you're just going to minimize your risk. But does everyone sort of understand where I'm coming from there? That's just building up a potential trade, a longer term. So the longer term basis, it had a good move down, pulling back. So you're getting that fight between the buyers and sellers, and you're trying to get the market loaded up on one side. They're loaded up on the short side at the moment. And you can see the market's holding a major high low here, another high low here. So that's, to me, is just building a picture of a big short squeeze and squeezing up, taking them all out again. All right. So I thought I'd just mention that. I know there might not be too many currency traders here, but it's the same sort of process. If you can get your mind around that, um, it probably gets a bit more complicated and there's a few more intricacies with currencies, but it's that similar type of process to analyze stock charts. You know, your indexes or your currencies or commodities, a similar sort of process. If you can think of it from that way, who's loaded where, and you can just see that from purely the chart perspective as well. All right, let's get into it. I'll get over to the shares now. So the first one off the CSR for Sharon. Let's have a look at that. PPH. Yes, we got creamed on that. Anyone that's joined us in the chat in the forum, I know Helen, you're in there. Paul's in there. There's a few others in there. If you read, but what's been happening? There's a couple that we've had. I've had RAP1 had a good little run up for a couple of days. It just broke through resistance level. The next day up, it really accelerated, and then we, into the close. And the next day, it came out with a news announcement. It was quite positive, and it was a bit of a buy the room, sell the facts. So if anyone tries to tell me people don't get the heads up on some sort of positive news announcement, I'd never believe them. So that's what we're talking about. And on Rapid, it played out. I'll get that up actually. Rapid played out. You can see it. It just took off. It had a gap up on this day, gap up, news out on that red candle, gapped up on the open to 18, and then sold off the rest of the day. It's looking okay now. Like this thing could just keep building and take off, but you can see by the way it's reacted, somebody somewhere knew something and they pushed it up, ticked off a resistance, probably traded through a few stops or buy entry stops, and it's traded higher. The news has come out and they've sold into strong news. Potentially, if they bought it around that 12, 3, 13 to 14 zone, sold it around 18, made a good little handy profit. But yeah, and it's happened also. PPH was looking not too bad. You can see this day, this candle here. That was the candle prior to the news, the day before prior to the news, which is yesterday. So it was yesterday, Wednesday, that was Tuesday. The news ticked off Tuesday, ticked off a nice little resistance zone, got held up nicely. Technically, it was looking nice. They come out with a positive news announcement. It gapped up on the open, caught a few traders who probably bought it right up above 420 and then proceeded to get sold off the rest of the day, and it's gapped down today. So, look, it's interesting. People get their heads up there, but good on you, Sharon. Was that on RAP, RAP, or was that on PPH? Just saw your comment. Either way, if it was RAP, well done. I got caught mucking around. I was thinking about 18 to 20, got to 18 and a half. I never pulled the trigger, so I was a bit upset yesterday, but it's looking the goods again today on RAP anyway. So that's PPH. That's the other one we've got. I'll just go over the others. We've got BPT going nicely. That's looking quite strong. You potentially heading up to a resistance zone where we're going to get a bit of reaction, maybe somewhere around 140. So I'll have to have a look at that. Whether or not we take some off up here, I don't know where we're standing at the moment. I might have to just leave it for a day or so. Hub we've got on the short side, which has just cleaned out that little resistance zone. So I have to keep an eye on that one. We've got our stop just above that high, that lower high. It hasn't, that's your key lower high at the moment. The market's come down, built a little minor lower high, pressed down, couldn't get through, just washed it out. But this one, I just want to keep an eye on that one to see if that can press down, see where the weekly's at. It's still a good case for that, taking out that low around, say, 990, 985, taking out that low and just really catching a few people off guard and squeezing them out again on the short side, really pressing down below that 10. If it gets down below 10 now and takes out that low at 985 or wherever it was, then it's looking the goods on the short. But we'll just have to see. It's up slightly. I think we got in at 1044 on the short, and it's 1037 at the moment. It looks to be getting held up. Some buyers hitting the offer. I don't know why, what's going on there. Potentially supporting, maybe an algo that's coming in there. But there's nothing big on the bid there anyway. That was Hub. SM1 still actually kicking along nicely today. That's really nice. We'll probably be moving our stop up on that one around the 8 mark from around 760. I think we've got it at the moment. So yeah, 760. So just keep an eye on that. I'll have to send an alert a bit later on. But that's looking good. I think if we can get through this high, previous, well, that low there at 875, or the high at 875, that minor lower high there, excuse me, it's looking positive because we had this gap up on positive news. A lot of opportunistic selling on that. If you've had it for a while, we took a sell at 899, a partial there, pulled all the way back to just below 775, popped up, had a pullback there, and it's still holding high lows, so it's looking good. And the fact that we've just taken out that 875 mark, I'd be gunning for. I'll mark it up. I'll have to look at the charts a bit more, probably that 950 or above, just to see where it could be going. But it's looking very good, very positive. You can see on the weekly, it may or may not be getting towards the end, potentially the end of a move up that it's having. We just have to assess it, but I don't mind when it's starting to get towards the end of a move, or what I think is the end of a move. I'd rather tighten it up because if it's strong, it should keep going. If it starts showing some cracks and some signs of weakness, I'd rather just get out and reassess it, and book that final, the second half of it. That was it, mate. That's probably all we got. RSG, was looking okay today. Gapped up to 132, straight back down again. So it's having problems getting up convincingly through 130 or the previous highs. It's still looking okay. I mean, that weekly still, it's just getting to those sort of that overbought zone on the weekly. There's nothing to say that it can't just oscillate, hold higher lows, get a bit choppy and squeeze a few sellers out through the highs there at 133. That would be great. I'm potentially just going to tighten that up to maybe to break even, which is 121, which means that it's it's just below that high low there at 124.5. We're not taking any risk on it, and if we get stopped out, then something's changed, and then I would suggest that it's probably that weekly move down. We're just going to have to, because it's struggling to get higher, it has to reset itself, and it has to squeeze some buyers out, put them back on the sidelines to rebuild again. And it might be according to the weekly chart rather than that daily. So we'll keep an eye on that, but that's all we got. All right, let's get on to, I'm already getting sidetracked, CSR. Well, that didn't work, did it? Let me just get back to my chart. There we go, CSR. All right, so looking at this one, probably we don't need to look at the weekly. You can see that weekly is heading higher. You've got the market's pretty much started from that 250 zone. What was that low? 240, 250. Started heading it, so it pressed higher, had a pullback off 4. Confirmed that it just retested the anchor, held a high low. We worked our way up. We held a high low. So pretty much this move up was from 250 up to these high before it broke the anchor. But it really didn't do too much. It broke the anchor, built the lower high, but just come back down and retested the low at around 385. And then we started heading higher again. So the weekly's pressing high, and this is your second leg up. And we've only just got through the previous highs around 525, say. I'm just going to go look at a longer term chart. All right. So the weekly's on its way up, and the daily also is on its way up. All right. The one thing I don't like, I mean, we probably don't have to draw this up too much. The weekly is just sort of oscillating between 50 and 80%. So the stochastics are just bang, bang, bang. It's not convincing. It is working its way higher. It's probably the daily that I don't like as much, the price action on the daily. I'm not saying that it's not a buy. I'm just saying that maybe it could be time for a correction. You can see we held that level here. We held a high, low. We've had a good correction here down to around that 5 mark. We've pressed up. So that's your high around 560. We've gone from overbought to oversold. So that's good compared to this high low here where it was oversold. But we've gone pretty much, we were coming up into, oh, bugger. All right, give me 1 second, guy. You can see what's happening. I might have to log in my power. That ran out real quick, didn't it? And that's not good. I've got no power here. Do you reckon I can unplug? Is that this? All right, let me quickly get that up there, guys. before we run out. All right, we're all good. Now, I'm guessing I'm still online, aren't I? Yep, good. So we've got, I've already forgotten what we're looking at, CSR. So we've got the market that's gone, it's had a good leg up here when it was oversold to overbought. We've gone to oversold, but we're coming in to overbought. So the one thing I don't like is really just these, you can see it's getting a bit wicky at the moment. So it got rejected. It's being rejected around 540 or just above. So you've had this, look, if we can break that down, I'm mainly just focusing on this because what I'm concerned is this going to be a lower high, which would lead me to believe that we're going to go bang. We could be testing down towards this anchor around 470, 480, or we could just getting sold off quite a bit because don't forget it's had a good run up too. I don't know if that's probably where support. So if that's the case, I'm just finding a bit more selling pressure that seems to be coming in here. We're working our way from overbought to oversold. So the pressure to get it from 5 to 540, only 40 cents, it's been quite strong, but that buying pressure has been met with a bit more selling pressure. And then the sellers are not letting it get back up to 560. They're happy to come in a bit earlier, maybe close out, whatever they're doing. But it's finding a bit of selling pressure up there. So I'm inclined, I wouldn't really buy that on a break. The obvious trade would be buying a break through, say, 545. We just stop down below 5, but I'll be inclined to just steer clear of that purely because it's not coming from an overbought condition where it's breaking, it's giving your entry from overbought going up to oversold. It's already in oversold territory. So you got to ask yourself, if it does break there, it does get me in, how much more can this move so I can make a profit? How much more energy is it? Is it going to get up 560 and then capitulate on me and just drop on me, or is this thing looking really good? And if that's the case, I would just be inclined, like I said, just be inclined to see, just let it work its way out. I wouldn't be buying up here, to be honest. I'd just let maybe retest 5 and then start to build. And if it, say it comes down from here, that's your major level. It's pushed up here. Say we come, I'll change it to blue because that's pretty much where we are. Say it comes down here and then you start holding and you get your higher low to work from. I'd be more confident buying that sort of structure and gunning for a break of 560 than buying it here, gunning for a break of 560. I hope that makes sense anyway. I'll get on to the others now. SM1. Yeah, we just got over that. That's a cracker, that one, isn't it, Helen? Now, Helen, did you get on that? I don't know if you did you? So Helen and I have been talking. We've been watching this one way back, probably the start of the year, even the end of last year. It was starting to hold that $6 mark. As soon as we got this press down through 6, we cleaned out that level. It reacted up. We tested it again, and as soon as we got this move up to about 775, it was looking great. Probably would have been a hard one to buy. Look, we could have bought it through that little high. I think we missed that high at 665, especially after it had washed out this $6 zone a couple of times then. And you've got a minor high low. You can see on that red candle before we broke, and that was a good little trade. It never looked back from there. But yeah, I think this one's looking good. We'll get on to, what was the other one? You're looking at Kogan. I was looking at that yesterday, to be honest. Oh, bugger. So I did send out an alert, I think, on this one yesterday. It hasn't got my setup. I think that was a bit hard to trade that through just that minor high there at 879, say buying at 880 today. I mean, you're looking good if you did. It's up 8% today, so maybe it's had a good announcement. What's happened there? Launches low-cost NBN internet service. All right. So I'd suggest this one may not look back. I may not get me entering. And what I was looking for, if you look back on the alerts, if you are on TradeSetup, I was looking for something. So this is you can see the high lows are pretty clean. The market's pressed up, pulled back, pressed up, pulled back. This was potentially looking like a high low. So you know exactly where you're going to put your risk. So if we're working off the high low, I was looking for something like this, to build a bit more convincing than what we got the little red day yesterday. I would rather have seen a retest potentially. I guess in all fairness, that could be a setup, but it's not a strong one for me, but that's looking good. You can see where the stochastics are. You're coming off from overbought to oversold. It pressed all the way down, but that was getting held up at higher levels. So buyers were still stepping at higher levels, soaking up that selling pressure. And then it's turned. A good announcement today. So I reckon that's just going to go straight up through 10 by the looks of it. But that looks good. Looks great, actually. Bugger. Yeah, it's had a good trend up too, but, you know, they're doing good things. So that's Kogan. We've spoken about wrap. Time to buy a Mac. Thanks, Paul. Tech whiz. I hope you're not talking about that, Paul. Hope you're giving Paul some stick. All right. 714 KGN. Yeah, it looks great, doesn't it? Exactly. Looks beautiful. Yeah, you've had that for a while, I'm guessing, too. All right, MCR, we'll get onto that for you there, John. Look, that looks good. The good thing about this, and this is where you can just look at that daily and you go, okay, it's if you're just looking from left to right of the chart, this is the only data you can see, it actually doesn't look too bad at all. I mean, you've had this this move up. Your key level is right down. Well, we'll draw that up. I'll just quickly draw it up. Your key level's pretty clear, isn't it? You've got your anchor here. You've pressed up from that anchor, and that was your recent higher low. And then the market's just it's chopping around quite a bit, but it hasn't broken that anchor. So what it could be doing is just anyone that's probably bought it up here it's been under some pressure and they don't know what's going to happen just yet. You never know. You don't know if it's going to hold up. We've had this little run up here, or we've come back down to test this level around 31, 31, 33, 33 here. We popped up, test 33. So 33 is holding. Now it potentially looks like 34 is holding. So I like the fact that this could be a higher low, especially after all this choppy action, and we're above what I consider the anchor at 28, which is holding this trend up. And it's probably just cleaning out a lot of buyers, a lot of people that bought it through here, probably just cleaning them out. There's some people selling into that. Buyers are soaking it up there, which is a really good thing, and it's taken quite a bit of time too, pretty much from December. Well, back in November, mid-November, when the market bounced off, pulled back from those highs, and we've been holding up since then. So just looking at the weekly, we're coming off. If you look at the weekly, this is probably more why I like it. The longer term structure is coming off on Mincor. We've got a resistance zone potentially up around 50, say 49, where it is. We've got that retest around 15, so the market's head down, pushed up, pulled back, retested that zone. So we've got a double bottom. We call that the retest fail. It's a very strong technical. If it's a retest fail on the way down, we retested a buying zone, then the market's lifted off that buying zone. But what we've seen is it lift quite, and that's what I was talking about before when it's had a good lift off that support zone, right up into that, just a touch below that anchor zone at around 50. So not that anchor. Yeah, no, it is. It's the anchor to that longer term move down. So the very minimum, we could just range trade for longer term, just bang, 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 bang between say 15 and 50 range trade. But the fact is that we're holding up, and we spent a lot of time through here holding up at a potential higher low. And that when you put that in context to that 49 resistance zone, we've fallen short at 45. It could just be building the energy just to go boom, straight up and through. And if you're thinking of where it could go to, just measure from that low to that high. I'm just guessing somewhere around 65, maybe 60 to 65. This zone up here could be a target. And if that's the case, you've got 3 or 4 to 1 on that trade. It could just keep going, and then that's not far off that that resistance through here around 75. So there could be a good little trade in that. So it's down to your daily just to see what's happening, and then don't forget too, it's gone from overbought, pressed right up, gone to oversold, come all the way back down. It come down to oversold, oversold again. What did I say? Oversold here, overbought, gone back down to oversold here and just below 25%. But it's way up at this level comparison to 15. It's way up at 35 or 30. So it's looking pretty good. For me, it's all about that daily chart now. And I want to see a push up through, say, 41, pop up, pull back to build a decent higher low, and then go from there. And then just see if I can get my setup from there. What else we got? MCR. I think that's about it, isn't it? All right, so I just read your comment, Helen. All right, that's probably, we've got through the stocks there. It's been about probably all my computer can handle today. We've gone through everything. So, all right, we'll probably call it a day there, guys, only because it's a bit tough on this computer. But yeah, I hope that there's a bit of news, something you've, just what we were talking about today. I hope you took something out of that. I hope it made sense to you. If it didn't, just remember you can always send through some questions to support@tradesetup.com.au. Anything you want to ask. If there's any charts you want to ask that you didn't get a chance in the stream and it's fairly urgent, or you just want to have a more in-depth, just put through a chart, send it to me. I know Paul does, and it's great. He just sends me some charts. Whether he's trying to tell me what to do or he's subtly suggesting something, I think it's great. That's not going to hurt, so feel free to do that. Otherwise, guys, thank you very much for joining me today. We actually didn't go too bad, I think. Went all right, so we'll call it a day there. We'll be back in on, back in on Monday at 12:30 again. I'll be back in Melbourne by then, so it's a bit of a fly in, fly out from Sydney, having a good meeting, chatting to a few people tonight, and then back out tomorrow. So, yeah. All right, guys, enjoy the rest of your day. Yeah, no, it's great, Paul. All right, thanks very much, guys. I'm going to enjoy the weather, Paul. You're right. I think it's looking great. I won't say it, but a beer could be on the cards a bit later on. Well, I know it is. Maybe one, maybe two. My wife's listening, just one. All right, guys, thanks very much for joining me. I've rambled on enough. I'll speak to you again on Monday. Cheers, guys. Bye.